Captain Jake Miller had just finished a 24-hour shift at the fire station in a small Midwestern town. He was exhausted. His shoulders ached, his eyes burned, and all he wanted was to get home, hug his daughter, and sleep for a few hours before picking her up from school. He was off duty. No uniform. No sirens. Just a man in an old pickup truck, driving through a neighborhood he'd passed 100 times before. That's when he saw the smoke. First he told himself it was nothing. Maybe someone burning leaves. Maybe a backyard grill. But as he drove closer, his grip tightened on the steering wheel. The smoke was coming from between houses, and it was getting darker. Jake slowed down. He rolled down his window. That's when he smelled it. Electrical fire. In his years as a firefighter, that smell had become unforgettable. Sharp. Bitter. Dangerous. The kind that didn't give second chances. He pulled over without thinking. Jake didn't have his gear. He didn't have backup. He didn't even have a radio. But he had something just as important: experience. And a decision to make. The smoke was coming from a small 2-story house at the end of the block. White siding. Blue shutters. A flag hanging from the porch. The kind of house that looked safe, ordinary, and full of memories. Jake ran toward it. As he reached the front yard, he heard something that made his heart drop. Crying. Not loud. Not screaming. Weak. Muffled. Coming from inside. "Hello," he shouted, pounding on the front door. "Fire department. Is anyone inside?" No answer. The smoke was thicker now, pushing out from the windows like the house was breathing in pain. Jake tried the door. Locked. He ran around back. Flames were beginning to lick up the side of the house near an outdoor electrical box. Power surge, maybe. One spark was all it took. Jake grabbed a large rock from the yard and smashed the back window. Heat rushed out like an angry wave. He covered his mouth with his shirt and climbed inside. The house was already filling with smoke. "Anyone here?" he shouted again. The crying came back, this time clearer. Stairs. Jake's lungs burned as he moved through the hallway, keeping low, counting steps the way he'd been trained. Every second mattered. Fire spreads faster than people think. Faster than fear. Faster than regret. He reached the stairs just as a loud crack echoed behind him. A beam shifted. The fire was growing. Upstairs he found the bedroom. On the bed sat a young boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, frozen in fear. His eyes were red. His cheeks wet with tears. He was coughing, trying to breathe through the smoke. Jake rushed to him. "It's okay," he said, his voice calm even though his heart was pounding. "I'm here. You're not alone." The boy tried to stand but stumbled. Jake scooped him up without hesitation, wrapping him tightly in his arms. As they turned back toward the stairs, flames burst through the hallway below. The way they'd come was blocked. For a split second, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not for himself, but for the child in his arms. He scanned the room. One window. Flames outside, but less than inside. Jake smashed it open, shielding the boy as glass fell away. The drop was about 12 feet. Not ideal, but survivable. Jake held the boy close. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I'm going to jump. I need you to hold on, okay? I've got you." The boy nodded, clinging to him with all his strength. Jake jumped. They hit the ground hard. Pain shot through Jake's leg, but he didn't let go. He rolled, protecting the boy, then staggered to his feet and ran. Just seconds later, the house erupted. Flames tore through the roof. Windows exploded outward. Neighbors screamed. Someone finally called 911. Fire trucks arrived minutes later, but by then the most important rescue was already over. The boy was alive. Jake collapsed on the grass, breathing hard, his legs screaming in pain. The boy's mother came running down the street, barefoot, her face twisted with terror. "That's my son," she cried. She dropped to her knees, hugging him so tightly it looked like she might never let go. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Jake. "You saved him," she whispered. "You saved my baby." Jake didn't know what to say. Later, at the hospital, doctors confirmed the boy would fully recover. Smoke inhalation, but nothing permanent. Jake had a fractured leg and a few burns, but he'd be back on his feet. The story spread fast. Local news called him a hero. Neighbors left thank you notes and meals on his porch. But when reporters asked Jake why he stopped, why he ran into a burning house while off duty, his answer was simple. I saw smoke, he said. And I knew someone might need help. That's it. But the truth was deeper than that. Jake had once lost someone in a fire when he was younger. A moment when help arrived too late. A moment that stayed with him every day of his life. Becoming a firefighter wasn't just a job. It was a promise to himself that if he ever had the chance to act, he would. That day he did. And because of one quick decision, one moment of courage, a little boy went home alive.